Hello, this is Mary. Welcome to my channel, Mary Speaks. Today, I'll be reviewing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Which one, you may ask? There's many, you might say. Well, don't worry. I'll get to them all. That's the plan anyways. But today, I'll be focusing on the first, the original, the classic original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The one that came out in 1974, so many years ago. Some things you probably should know about the movie. It's actually a great movie. It isn't a, okay film. Yes, they did have a low budget, but they did amazing with what they had. Amazing with the budget they were given. And it was recorded. It was filmed in the summer heat in Texas. And when you see the film, you can kind of feel that just by some of the scenes and seeing how bright the sun was. Another thing you should know about the movie. It was inspired by a real-life serial killer named Ed Gein. A little bit about Ed Gein, because I just find it very fascinating. I know. Serial killers are very fascinating. But, a little bit about Ed Gein. He grew up. He was born in 1906. He grew up not in Texas, but I don't remember exactly where. It was either Ohio or Wisconsin. I don't remember which states he lived in. I just know it was not Texas. I know. But, anyways, he grew up, was raised by an alcoholic father, a very controlling mother, and his brother died in a fire in 1944. So his life wasn't the easiest. That doesn't justify what he did. Anyways, he grew obsessed with his mother. He was very devoted to her. And then, in 1945, she died. And it all went downhill for him from there. And for the rest of the people, including his victims. Because he started killing people. His mental health deteriorated. He was losing it. Clearly was off his rocker. Clearly was not the most mentally stable person. And he decided, you know what? Why not start killing people? So, what did he do? Started killing people. I know, right? I just don't know what to say to that, but he did that, and it was terrible. The cops found out, and then he was found unfit to stand a trial, and then eventually, in 1968, he was found fit to stand trial, and he was found guilty and was convicted. What's interesting is that he didn't die until 1984, which means he was alive in prison, behind bars, for all his crimes. While this movie had just come out and had been out for 10 years, and then he died, but it's just interesting. Anyways, he also inspired movies and their antagonists. He inspired the antagonist from Psycho, Norman Bates. And he inspired the antagonist from Silence of the Lambs. So he was pretty influential, and people find him fascinating. He did what Leatherface does. He did skin people and butcher people, and yeah. So that is who inspired Leatherface, and who inspired the director and the writers of Texas Chainsaw Massacre to make Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Leatherface. So now moving on to the movie. So the opening scene was gruesome. It gave you chills. It sent chills. It's able to send chills down your spine. Because, well, I can't really spoil too much, but just it gives the feeling like what you're about to see is definitely disturbing and definitely gruesome and definitely horror film. But it seems so real, and that's why I really like it. It seems very, very real. The story follows Sally and Franklin Hardesty and their 3 friends. Well, Sally's boyfriend and her 2 other friends. Yeah. So, they were going on a road trip because they needed to visit their grandfather's grave. They wanted to make sure no one had disturbed it, that no one had robbed his grave, no one had dug up his body, making sure their grandfather was resting in peace. And then they decided to go to their old family home. But on the way to their old family home, they came across a hitchhiker. Now, this hitchhiker is creepy. Really creepy. And I think it's important to note that back then, hitchhiking wasn't illegal. In fact, it was very normal. It was a normal occurrence of daily life. You'd just drive and you'd see a hitchhiker. And you'd be like, oh, might need to pick them up. They might need a ride somewhere. Well, in this case, they should not have picked that hitchhiker up. His appearance is creepy. His demeanor is creepy. And when he enters the van, everything he says is creepy. It's disturbing. He clearly is not mentally stable. But they give him, a ride. They pick him up. They give him a chance. Like good people would. But they soon learn that it's definitely unstable. So they kick him out. I have to say, the actor was phenomenal at giving the performance, at showing, at acting like he was legitimately unstable. He did an amazing job. And that's one of the reasons why I like this movie. Because there are some very memorable characters who did an amazing job. Hitchhiker being one of them. So then they stop by the gas station. And the head of the the person in charge of the gas station, the person who runs the barbecue, restaurants or whatever, he seems like an ordinary guy. Yeah, he seems like an ordinary guy. And later on in the film, you realize he is not an ordinary guy. Nope, not even close. And you realize that he's a tad bit, tad bit just, we'll just say that. And then after running into him, realizing there's no gas at the gas station, and that, well, there's barbecue. So they get barbecue, which also, it just, eventually, you'll start wondering whether it actually was barbecue that they were serving. Yep. And do I have answers? No, and kinda no. Like, I think I do, but I don't want to, say anything, and I have already said I'm not trying to spoil anything. So, moving on. So, Sally and Franklin's friends, after they get there, Pam and Kirk decide to go off. And they end up wandering upon Leatherface's house, or the Sawyer house, in search for gas. Yeah. Now, I will say this. They should have never been on that person's property. Why? Well, because it's Texas. I had a friend who said, that in Texas, they're very protective over their property. And they're allowed to just kind of, shoot a name at anyone who just kind of goes on their property. I wouldn't chance it. I'm sorry. I would not chance it. And I've never been to Texas, but I still would not chance that because, now, that doesn't excuse everything Leatherface did, and, doesn't give people, necessarily the right to butcher people and, do terrible things to them. But I am just saying, I would have never gone on anyone's property. In Texas, especially. But that's beside the point, kind of. So, they come across this house, and the house itself looks kind of like a normal house, There is like a shed or a farm or whatever, but the inside of the house does not look normal. And Kirk finds that out. Pam goes sits elsewhere. She says, "Let's go." Kirk doesn't listen. Kirk does not listen. Yeah. And that is his mistake. He wanders into the house. He gets killed. He's murdered. I'm not spoiling how, but he's murdered. So, Pam, after sitting elsewhere a while, decides that she should go check on her boyfriend, who's been in the house for a long time. And she tries to escape. She comes across Leatherface. She tries to escape. Tries to run out that door. But she cannot. And then what happens to her? Oh my gosh. That scene just gives you chills and terrifies you because she dies in it's horrific what she goes through. and what she sees. And you can just feel it when you watch that scene. It is probably the most chilling scene in the movie. Probably. So she dies. She's murdered by Leatherface. Then Jerry is the driver. He's the one driving them, but he was kind of forgettable. He was just like after watching the movie, it's hard to remember that he even kind of existed. Um, which is kind of sad, but it's just he's just forgettable. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but he was seriously forgettable. But he goes off and searches for Pam and Kirk because they haven't been, they haven't seen them for a while because they're kind of dead. But Jerry doesn't know that, so he wanders off, goes into the house, and he gets murdered. Not so how, but he gets murdered. And the last two, brother and sister. It's dark now, and they're waiting by the fan. Jerry hasn't come back. Pam and Kirk haven't been seen. So Sally and Franklin have a little bit of an argument. Little bit might be an understatement. So eventually they realize that, they should go look. But they also realize they don't have something important that they need. That's all I'm saying. To get away. And so they go searching for their friends, who they don't know are dead. And then Franklin, disabled guy, in a wheelchair, very smart, just is a little bit disabled, physically speaking, but by far the smartest character. Sally was pretty smart, but Franklin, he had been mentioning the hitchhiker constantly. He was like, the hitchhiker, is he coming after us? The hitchhiker, can he find us? What if blah 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 about the hitchhiker? Should have listened to him. He was a lot smarter than they thought he was. They underestimated. All the characters underestimated his smarts. I felt really bad for Franklin. Probably really, he just really did not deserve. I mean, none of them deserve to die. But out of all of them, anyways, he meets. He dies. Again, not spoiling it, but he dies. He gets murdered, and then Sally escapes. Eventually, I don't want to share with you the ending per se, all of it, because if you watch this movie, I don't want you to be spoiled. I want you to have fun watching this movie. I care. I mean, but she escapes, but she escapes. You can just see. Then her life will never be the same because of the trauma. You can literally see it in her eyes. The terror, the horror, the fear, the panic, the pain, everything is just so written on her face, and you can just see it. Leatherface, he has not successfully murdered a person. Yep. And we don't see him being arrested or being apprehended or killed. He's alive. And that's when the movie ends. And there's a memorable ending. So there you have it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love this movie because it's so real. Every scene is real. The characters are believable. Almost like watching real life. Which is kind of creepy and kind of disturbing at the same time. But I really recommend this movie to anyone who's just really a fan of horror but hasn't seen it before, or to the person who maybe wants to try out watching horror. I recommend this movie because it's they wrote a good story, and it's real, and it's believable, and they did an amazing job. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel. It's a red button, so subscribe. Push it. And I'll see you guys later when I make another video. Bye.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy